Welcome to this week's edition of The Accomplished Woman with Cathy Mendel, the show for women who are serious about their retirement. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and it's my pleasure to be here in the studio with Cathy Mendel herself. She is the founder and president of Theia Financial. Hello, friend.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. So much fun to be here with you, Kristin.
Oh, we have the best time. It really is such a joy.
Yeah.
And I love that not only are we having a great time, but I know viewers at home who've been calling in to meet with you have said how much they enjoy this show as well. And you provide such valuable information. And this is our heartbeat and our passion, is to help serve women to make sure that they have the best information possible to be able to make the right decisions for their retirement. And today you've prepared another great show. I'm so curious to hear your take on this. We're going to be talking today about timing risk, which is really interesting because most financial advisors out there are talking about market risk, but you talk about timing risk. So let's start with that.
Okay.
What do you mean by that, and what do we need to know about it?
Timing risk has to do with when you retire and the conditions of the market.
Okay.
But I'm going to start with a story.
I love it. Let's go for it.
So, now this is a story about me. And this happened to me about 15 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm on a flight from Dallas, Texas to Southern Oregon. And we get on the plane, and you know how busy the airport is there.
Oh, yes.
It's a really busy airport.
I try to avoid that airport whenever possible, just saying.
Right. Okay. So I'm on this flight. I get on, get settled. I'm in the exit row. Take off. Everything's good. And about 20 minutes into the flight, the pilot comes on and he says, well, you know how they talk. Well, folks, we've had a little problem and we need to return to the airport. And the flight attendants are kind of scrambling around. And the next thing I know, apparently one of the engines had flamed, had caught fire. It was burning.
Right.
And the flight attendants, they're like white. Their faces, their color went out of their face.
That's never a good sign.
That's not a good sign.
No.
They had us put our head between our knees.
Oh.
Okay. So it was that kind of a deal.
Right.
It was the strangest thing ever. The passengers across the aisle were holding hands. It was dead silent. I mean, there was not a peep to be heard.
Right.
And we flew around this lake, and they dropped all the fuel, which really freaked me out. I thought, but
what in the world?
I know, right? Yeah. So we flew around this lake, and then we finally, you know, the pilot says, okay, we're gonna return to the the airport.
Right.
And so in the meantime, I'm thinking, holy cow, this could be the end of me. Right? So I whipped out my phone and I'm texting my family, and I'm like, you know, Luke and Pete and Nate, I love you. You know, just remember that forever. And then I texted my husband. I said, honey, take care of the kids. You know, and I'm giving them all this heartfelt, these texts.
Right.
So anyway, we get down and we land. And when we flew over Dallas Airport, there was not a plane out there. Wow. It was totally empty. But there were fire trucks and ambulances. And
oh my word!
I'm telling you, it was an experience.
Yes.
So we got off the plane. I went into the bathroom and I just cried my heart out. Well, here's my kids getting a text like that, right? Because as we came down, then all the texts left because they weren't, you know.
You can't, I get it, yep.
Because I could have just said, oh, never mind, you know.
Right.
But, and in fact, the kids were like, Mom, are you okay? You know, and it took me a while to gather myself.
Oh, for sure. You need that release of just the emotion and the fear with all that, right?
Yes, it was a crazy moment. Yeah. And of course, I didn't hear from my husband for 3 days.
Arlen?
Yeah, he was on a motorcycle trip, and he was in an area that had no cell coverage. So as he's coming back into town, I'm home by then.
Right.
He's coming back into town, and he's getting all of these messages. I love you, honey. You know, the kids are, Mom, are you okay? You know.
Wow.
Anyway, it was an experience. Yeah. I will say that. And and when we talk about timing, see, if I had been on a flight 20 minutes later, that would have never happened. But I had unlucky timing. I happened to be on that flight when that engine went out.
Yes, at that particular time.
At that particular time. See, what happens with retirement is that as you go into retirement, you don't know what the conditions of the market are going to be when you go into retirement. I think about the people that retired in the year 1999 or 2000. How could they have predicted that 9/11 would happen?
Right.
That was totally out of their control,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Completely. Their accounts went down 50%. So if you think about how I felt when I had to face something really awful, how that felt for millions of Americans that were watching their retirement savings dwindle away. Now, if you were working, it was upsetting.
Oh, for sure.
I had clients tell me, I haven't looked at a statement for 2 years.
Oh, I remember I wasn't looking at mine.
They couldn't face it, right?
Yep.
But they still had a paycheck. But if you were using those assets to draw income, your $800,000 went down to $400,000.
Right.
That's terrible.
Devastating.
Well, then it started to recover, right? We had 5 good years, and then 2008 happened. So it happened again. It was like when they would come in to see me in 2009, 2010, it was like PTSD.
Yes.
Right?
For sure.
I mean, truly.
Right.
So that's what market timing is. Market timing is that you don't know the future of how your assets are going to weather the storms of the market. We can't predict what the Fed is going to do with interest rates, okay? We don't know what the next pandemic is going to be. We don't know what wars or politics or any of those things are going to happen.
None of us have a crystal ball.
And all we can do is reflect on the last 10 or 12 years. It's called recency bias. That's what's happened recently. I'm just going to assume that will keep happening.
Yes.
But the market is on a cycle. It doesn't, nobody can predict it when it's going to happen.
Right.
But we do know that the market will have crashes. It will drop, it'll grow like crazy, it'll go all over the place during your retirement.
Yes.
So the question is what can you do about that?
About this timing risk,
About timing risk.
For sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay? So when we talk about market volatility, what I want to say is that you have to plan for market volatility as though you knew it were going to happen. That's the key to a really solid retirement. I have a philosophy about that, and that is that the first 10 years of retirement, you can have no loss with your money.
Right.
You need to position yourself so that you know you have bought yourself 10 good years of income. And we have a method that we call income for life, and we know how to do that so that you are not exposing yourself to this dramatic drop. You're not exposing yourself to that drama. I mean, I'm sure you know this, you've had clients that have come in and they've had a cancer diagnosis or a death of a spouse. It's the same feeling when you watch your accounts when you're retired.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and it's so sudden, and then you feel so hopeless there's nothing you can do about it at that point.
And then you hear from your advisor, well, everyone lost money.
Is that really the case?
Right.
Was it necessary to lose?
Yeah.
Right? That's the next part of that question, right?
Right.
Because things can be done on the front end, and when you have this plan in place, this written plan, with all these what ifs built in, then when these unexpected things happen, you're able to pivot and make the adjustments as needed.
Yeah. The thing that I want to emphasize is that everyone should plan for timing risk in their portfolio when you're going into retirement. You should not leave, no person should intentionally leave it to luck to determine that they're going to succeed in retirement. And that's really what it is. My dad went through that when he retired, and he retired in '99 and had this happen to him. And I remember I was working in corporate world at that time. I hadn't started my firm, but I remember talking to him and how shaken he was. You know who he was worried about? My mother. He said, I don't know now if I'm going to have enough money to last for both of us. For both of us, right? And what's going to happen to your mother? I mean, that's the kind of things that go through your mind when you experience something like that.
Absolutely.
It's not something you want to take a chance on when you move into retirement.
No, for sure not. Well, I know you're going to, as the episode goes on, going to be able to unpack some strategies of how people can navigate this risk, this timing risk. But for anyone who's watching right now and they want to be able to have a meeting with you to kind of talk about their own situation, what do they need to do?
Okay. Well, first of all, we won't be telling any more tear-jerking stories.
Right.
Okay. But what we will do is be talking about you and your own financial story and your own dreams of retirement and the things that concern you. You know, there's a lot to think about today. If you watch the news, there's a lot of news out there that's very frightening. So the key is to have a plan that can weather those storms, and especially in your first 10 years. 866-724-4927. And that's for a 15-minute Zoom call just to get acquainted. 866-724-4927. 4927.
Cathy, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, we encourage you, we are going to take a quick commercial break, but this is a great opportunity to pick up the phone, make that phone call so that you can schedule time to have a complimentary 15-minute Zoom call with Cathy so that she can see how she can best serve and help you as you prepare for retirement. Maybe you're already in retirement, maybe you're a few years out. Wherever you are, she can meet you in your financial situation and see how she can serve and help you. Just call the number on the bottom of your screen, 866-724-4927. You're also welcome to scan that QR code. Just take out your smartphone. You can scan that code in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few simple questions, and a member of the Theia Financial team will reach out to you to schedule your complimentary visit with Cathy that way as well. When we come back, we're going to be diving into some strategies of how you can manage this timing risk and what Cathy has been able to do for several clients. We love story time with Cathy. You're not going to want to miss it. More after this.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to The Accomplished Woman with Cathy Mendel, this show that is for women who are serious about their retirement. And I'm Kristin Oakley, your host. And Cathy, we were having a lively discussion. You shared a very powerful story earlier to illustrate the devastation that can happen with timing risk. And so that's my next question for you. What are some strategies that can be employed for women in order to help them manage this timing risk as they are nearing and approaching retirement?
Yes. So I would say the first thing you have to think about is the first 10 years of retirement are the most important.
Yes.
It's if you take a big hit in those early years, you really don't ever recover. And it will change the trajectory of your future income. So protecting the first 10 years is going to be a major goal with however you set up your retirement plan or however many assets you have.
Right.
So in the first 10 years, what I like to look at are money or assets that are positioned in such a way that they cannot lose money. Now there's a lot of tools out there.
Yes.
Now we're not going to have time on the show today to tell you about all of those, but what I want to say is conceptually, the first 10 years you can't lose money. 10 years and beyond, you have bought yourself time. See, that's what you've really done.
Right.
The assets that are in the market have time. I totally love using, we have some annuities that we use that we really like because they set our clients up for growth and no loss and an income. Growth, no loss, and an income. And you do that for a while until you've given yourself some time.
And I love that you're saying that because I think annuities get a bad rap a lot of time, but you and I both know there's different kinds. And so what you're talking about is a kind that protects, right? Protects that preservation
As an
of
example,
capital.
the multi-year guarantee annuity, those are little short-term accounts. They're not intended to be lifetime.
Right.
But right now, we're getting 4 or 5% on those for 3 years.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
You put some money in there, you let it mature in 3 years, you have other things that you've put into place and you're taking income, no stress about it.
Right.
So if during that time the market goes through one of these, gut-wrenching episodes, it hasn't affected you.
Right.
And isn't that what we're looking for?
Yes.
We want to know that our income is going to be solid through our whole life. And that's the key. It's not hoping that the market grows so that you can have an income. It's structuring your income so that you know it's going to be there. I'll give you an example of when I first started really looking at this. Early in my financial experience in my career, clients that came in that had pensions, they didn't really care about the market.
Right, because they didn't need to.
They did.
Right?
Their monthly income between their Social Security and their pension, they were comfortable.
Mailbox money came every month, right?
Yes,
It was set.
every month.
Right.
And I thought about that. I thought, good heavens, these, the market might be doing, flips, and they're just, oh yeah, you talk about it, you think they're going to come in all worried, and they're not worried.
Nope.
I thought, you know what, that's the peace of mind that a person needs when they go into retirement.
For sure.
So that they have money coming in every month, and they know it's going to be there.
Well, and I know you've used this term before, ROI, which most people think is return on investment, but you call it reliable ongoing income, and I love that. That's what you want to set up for people.
That should be your retirement ROI.
Yes.
Is this reliable ongoing income? It really opens up your mind to be able to live freely. And when you're listening to the news or things are happening with your friends' portfolios or whatever, I remember working, when I was in corporate life, I had a colleague that had retired, and I met her a couple years later. First, I can't remember how we got acquainted or what the circumstances were of meeting, but she was not very happy because she had lost a tremendous amount of money, and it changed her retirement, what she thought a retirement was going to be.
Right.
And that's the piece. You just never want to put yourself in that position in the first place.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
And so I know you've worked with so many women to help them navigate this timing risk, right? Any stories that stand out?
Well, there's different types of, when I think about a client that comes in to visit with me, there's kind of like three categories. There's overfunded investors. And this is the lucky few that they have done a great job saving.
Right.
All right. They have ample assets. They can take risk because there's almost...
They can afford to.
They can afford to. There's almost no way that it's going to be a problem. They can use any strategy and do okay. The only thing that they're mostly concerned about are taxes. So a lot of times...
That's a different problem,
That's
right?
a whole other problem,
Larger
right?
income comes the tax problem. It's,
Yeah. And then you have what I would call the underfunded investor. And these are people who have saved very little, and they're going to be relying on Social Security.
Right.
But then you have in the middle, which is where the bulk of everyone lives, is what I call the challenged investor.
The challenged investor.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so not challenged of them as a person, but challenged in the fact that they have a modest amount of money, or they may have millions. It really depends on how much income they need.
Yes.
So if they have a lot of money, if they have several $1 million, but they're taking $400,000 a year, well, they may be challenged because what they're relying on is their investments to produce the income
that they're going to need throughout the rest of their retirement.
And so for that person, it's critical that they adopt a plan that protects their early years of retirement and sets them up for future success, no matter what the market does.
Right.
Because relying on the market when you don't know what the future holds. It's kind of like driving in fog. Okay. So years ago, I was driving from one office to the other, and I went over a mountain pass, and I dropped into a fog bank. I was very comfortable with where I know this drive like the back of my hand. I've done it for 14 years. But all of a sudden, I drove into this fog bank, and I couldn't see the road.
You were completely disoriented,
I was very disoriented. In fact, for a minute there, I wasn't even sure I was on the road. And then I thought I was on the wrong road. And as I'm driving along, I see this sign that says Pacific Crest Trail. And I'm like, what?
Oh, wow.
Because I had seen that. I had never noticed the sign, but I had driven by it hundreds of times.
Right.
But because I was going so slow. So what happens when you are... what I call a constrained investor is that all of a sudden you get into a position where you don't know what to do next.
Yes.
And it's really disorienting.
And that's so frustrating for women who are accomplished, right? Because we're used to being able to handle and manage a lot of things, and then all of a sudden to feel like we don't have that control, that's very unsettling.
It is, and it's not something that you want to, you want to mitigate that risk before it ever comes to play in your own life. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, I know with this comes a lot of, conversations that need to be had to figure out what the right tool is for someone to help them mitigate this timing risk. And so if you're watching right now and you're thinking, yes, I would really love Cathy's help to figure out how I can mitigate my own timing risk, what do they need to do?
That's an easy one. Because what we do is we have you give us a call, and you can call 866-724-4927. And what that will do is a member of our team will take your call, and we'll set up a 15-minute Zoom call with myself. What we'll do is we'll talk about where you are, how long until retirement, what have you saved so far, kind of get your financial story. We'll hear a lot about your hopes and dreams and what do you want this to look like. And then if we decide we want to explore that a little bit more, we'll set up a second call. But it's a really nice way. There's no big decisions on this call. There's nothing to buy, okay? There's nothing to buy. So I would love to offer that to you, 866-724-4927.
Cathy, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, again, that number to call is on the bottom of your screen, 866-724-4927, or you're welcome to scan that QR code to get connected with Cathy and her team so that you can have your complimentary, no cost, no charge, no obligation Zoom call to see how Cathy can help and serve you. More with The Accomplished Woman with Cathy Mendel when we come back.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Welcome back to The Accomplished Woman with Cathy Mendel. I'm Kristin Oakley, and Cathy, another great show we're having today. We've been talking about mitigating timing risk, especially as you approach and enter into retirement. And the reality is a lot of you out there might already be working with another financial advisor, but Cathy, I know that you love meeting with women and just providing another perspective and a second opinion. And I think a lot of folks don't know, how is my financial advisor doing for me? Are they doing a good job? Do they know how to mitigate this timing risk for me? So if someone's out there asking those questions about the person that they're already working with, how do they know if their advisor is actually skilled in this area?
Do you know what I have found is that people will come into us and they'll say, I've never had an experience like this before. It's what is your advisor talking to you about? Are they talking about rate of return and what happened last year and what they're doing to make your portfolio better, and that's your review? Is that your plan? That really is not a plan. Okay, that is a stack of investment statements. That is not a plan for retirement.
Nope, not the same thing at all.
It's not the same thing. So when you just need to go by what the conversation is. The conversation should be that you're working with somebody that is focused on this particular area. And I don't know if I call them retirement specialists, but they understand the mechanics of it.
Yes.
And that's what you're looking for.
Right.
So they know how to deal with inflation. They know that has to be income. It has to be inflation adjusted. It has to last your lifetime. Okay.
Right.
It has to
you
be
can't run out.
It has to be enough.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. It has to be enough so that you can live well and enjoy yourself. They have to understand anything that might affect your income, and they need to mitigate that risk when they're setting you up for retirement.
Yes.
The investments then support your income need, not the other way around.
I love that perspective. That's a huge, it turns it on its head of how the industry has traditionally viewed this situation of preparing for retirement.
Exactly. Right? That takes away the question, can I withdraw 4% and be okay?
Right.
Okay. Yes. So what you want to do is your investments need to be supporting the income plan. And then it gets into the tax planning. How much income do you actually have to, how much do you have to pull in order to have the income that you want?
Right.
And this has to do with organizing your withdrawals in such a way that you reduce your taxes to the lowest possible amount. I'm not opposed to paying taxes, but I don't want to pay more taxes than I need to.
No, for sure not. We want less to the IRS,
Less to the, yeah, that's a good one.
Yes.
Less to the IRS. The healthcare discussion, this is all part of your plan. This has to do with, will there be assets when you're older and need them? Maybe it's equity in a home. Maybe it's a large account. But the fact is if you don't know that, that's very frightening. I have a lot of couples that it's usually the woman that outlives the man. I don't know why, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, that's what statistics show.
Statistics say that that's what's going to happen, and they know that there's a 80% chance that they will be a widow at some point. That is the rule, by the way, is women that are 85 and older, a large portion of them are widows. The question is how am I going to live? How's the money going to work out? I'm going to lose a Social Security. Maybe they're going to lose part of a pension. And then they have the question of being able to take care of themselves and remain independent. And then, of course, finally, the estate planning side of it is everything buttoned up. You just don't want to go into retirement and not have those things done.
Right. Well, and I love that at Theia Financial, you are a one-stop shop. I mean, this is what you're able to do, is put together this comprehensive, holistic plan that takes all of these things into consideration.
Exactly. And I think when you ask me, is my person a you know, are they the right person? I'm just going to say, what are they talking to you about?
What kind of conversations are they having with you?
If it's all about investments, you're not being served well.
It's time to get a second opinion.
Yeah, I think
right?
so. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just going back to timing risk, I have an example of what can happen and the numbers of it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have, now this is hypothetical, but we'll call them Jerry and Susan. Okay. So Jerry retires in the year 2001, and he enters retirement with $500,000. He wants $2,000 a month. Seems reasonable, right? $24,000 a year.
Right.
And he figures, you know, the market's been going gangbusters for the last 10 years. I should be totally fine. So unfortunately, he was very unlucky. He hit the 2001, 2, and 3.
Yep.
He hit 2008. His account, he had to keep drawing because that was the income he needed to live. Right.
Yep.
So his account went from 500,000 down to 189.
Whew.
Now, how does that look for the future? It doesn't look well, does it?
No, not
Then
at
you take this other person, we'll call her Susan, and she has 500,000. She's taking 24,000 a year. She happened to retire in 2010. There were no big hits.
Nope.
The market did just fine for 10 years.
Yes.
In fact, it went in even further than that.
It was the longest running bull market in a while, right? 13 years, yeah.
Yeah, so from 2010 to 2021, the market was doing great.
Right.
She had no big hits. She had a couple flat years, but nothing of any consequence.
Sure. Right.
Her 500,000 with a $24,000 withdrawal went up to 1.1 million.
Okay, 189,000, 1.1 million.
It's
a huge
luck of the draw.
difference, right?
That is timing risk.
Yes.
That's an example of timing risk, and it isn't a risk that you should accept.
No,
you don't have to accept that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love that's your take on it. No, it doesn't have to be this way. We can fix this. There's things that we can do. And you know, I've called you a magician before. You have a lot of tools at your disposal, and once you find out someone's unique situation, you're able to figure out, okay, and strategize, how do we put a plan together that makes sense so that we can utilize these tools so that you can help mitigate that timing risk?
Exactly. What I find that most women care about, not so much past performance, but they really want future financial security.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that they're insecure. It just means they don't want to worry about it.
Exactly. They want to be able to sleep well at night and not have to think about
They
it.
just don't want to worry about it. They want to know their income's going to be there just like it was when they were working.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
They didn't have to worry about that either. They knew they were going to have a paycheck.
Right.
So,
Yep.
yes.
And they want to be able to go buy something if it's on sale and not have to stress about it, right?
Well, exactly. Or take a trip, or do the things that makes them happy.
Yep.
And that's the way you want to go into retirement, is that you just take that worry off their shoulders.
Yeah.
And you can't do that if you're not taking care of some of the risks that are inherent in being in the market.
Absolutely. Well, I know we only have just a short minute left. It always goes by so quickly, but walk us through again, if someone wants to set up this complimentary meeting with you, what can they expect when they get on this Zoom call?
Yeah, so it's actually a really fun call. So what we do is we have fun talking about who you are, how things are going for you, when do you want to retire, what have you saved so far, what still needs to be done. It's really nice when you have a couple of years before retirement, but honestly, it doesn't matter. The goal is to help you set yourself up and to know what needs to happen for you to live well in your retirement. Call 866-724-4927.
Cathy, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, thank you so much for watching. We encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. We appreciate you watching, and we will see you next time.